My last cup of coffee of the day. I hope you brought yours, because I am going to start another Rampage. And not just today. I have this whole list of things that I want to talk about. Hopefully you'll be interested. Some of it is some thought, enlightenment about how things are working. Also some new ideas that I have about some things, like I just bought these and you want to know what these are and what they're for an idea in my head. I'll go over some of this. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that I've been thinking about and working on around in the shop. So let me start off that one of the projects I'm really got intrigued with, and I probably got sidestepped, is Rob's Ryobi Oscillating Belt and Spindle Sander. Rob's. And we talked about that, and I did a good episode of some improvements I was starting to make. And I was talking about doing the dust collection. Well, I will tell you, the dust collection has turned out to be more of a complex issue for me than I thought it would be. Now, yes, I could just throw a little hood on top of the table and fasten it down and stick a hose on it, and I have some vacuum above that would help collect it. But I'm really trying to find a good, efficient way to be able to set that up, because you're using it in multiple environments. I'd like my dust collector to do all those things. Plus, I didn't know this, but the way that is designed on this Ryobi, and again, the other knockoffs of this Ryobi unit that came out since this one was out, they have some distinct differences, and two of them are the rotation of the unit. This one rotates from right to left when you're looking at it, and all the other units, as far as I know, all go from left to right when they're spinning. And that does cause some subtle changes. But as far as dust collection, I think, and I've not seen one of those firsthand, so I can't be sure, but I think their dust collection is different than this one. But I think there's going to be some similarities for those that are interested. The problem I run across is, like I said, I could easily just put a dust shield right on front where it can collect the most dust and call that a win. That's what most of the units out there have done. But actually, I found that it's a little more subtle than that. First off, long-term wise, doing that instead of hooking it up on the back of the machine, one of the things that dust collection does is it helps keep the dust out of the machine itself. If you ever get a close look at the unit itself, it actually uses two vacuum chambers. So the vacuum's coming in on the back, and if you look in there, you'll see a split right down the middle. And the top half of that goes into a chamber behind the belt. And the lower chamber goes in, and it sucks in from around the belt itself. So anything that's right next to the belt goes down in underneath the belt and gets sucked away. Now, those two chambers are important because they also don't allow all that dust that's going on there. It pretty much can prevent it from finally getting into that machine. So if I just stop using that back port and I put a dust collector on there, the dust buildup in that and what gets into the machine itself would be dramatically increased. So for long-term use of dust collection, you can't just forsake their dust collection, but you do need to understand how it really works. So if you look at this thing right here, well, you know what? We really don't need to. I've already explained enough about it. The details about that are coming because I am working on a method where I think I have to have that one chamber, but I'm also going to have to wire off of that chamber into an above table dust collection unit. And I like to have it flexible enough that I can use it when I'm using a spindle or the belt. And not only that, you're also going to find that you can use that belt sander, not only on the flat surface, but on the one end where that 300 drive drum is that drives the belt. On the Ryobi, it's on the left, and on the others, it's on the right. That drive belt, you're going to be doing a lot of sanding directly against that drum from the end of it, instead of on the flat surface. to take advantage of that curve. So the kind of dust collection, I'm trying to figure out how to do something that really will do a good job and will not compromise the dust getting into that machine is really the real trick. So that long-term wise, I can hook a hose up to it and not think anymore about it. It's pulling all the dust out and protecting that unit from building up with dust inside. So anyway, I am working on that. I've got a couple of things going, but that has turned out to be a little more complicated than I thought it would be for long-term usage of dust collection on it. So just eliminating the old dust collection method could really damage that machine. So you got to keep in mind when you change the dust collection, why was the original set up the way it was? And it's amazing how many of these machines are really set up, more importantly, to protect the machine itself than it is to really collect the dust from getting all over every place and on you. Bandsaw is a classic for example of that. That bottom wheel, they have that vacuum that goes into that where that bottom wheel is. That is to keep that stuff from packing up inside that wheel. They don't care about all that dust that is created on the top tabletop and gets everywhere. They only care about what goes into that wheel when they design dust collection, especially from the older ones. The newer ones are trying to collect it a little better, and you can do that. But the main thing is they want to protect that machine from getting over-contaminated with the dust and the chips that come off of that machine and cause a problem, and maybe even could damage the machine over time if you don't take care of it. So dust collection on machines, you got to be careful when you modify them. You have to think about it. Why did they design it that way to begin with? And I have found that one is no different. So we'll get into that and more. Don't think I forgot about it, because I haven't. I've also been really thinking seriously and giving a lot of thoughts to how to do that circle jig so I can sand round objects on there. And that, I think I've got a pretty simple design set up now. So I'll probably, that may even come out before the dust collection part of that thing. But I have not forgotten about that. So those of you that wonder about it, we're not done with it, okay? So anyway, that is one of the things I wanted to get off my chest right off. Now let's talk about, I am a two-dog shop here. I have two dogs, as you might know if you follow me. One of them is a yellow lab, and she's about 11 years old. Very smart, very well versed in knowing what I'm talking about when I talk to her. She's like a 5-year-old kid, and probably about as smart. So, but with her, the way I have this arranged in the shop, so I like to give my dogs free rein. So I have doggy doors in both the house and the shop, so they can go in and out from those two buildings. And the backyard is fenced in, so they can go into the backyard. Annie loves to go out front. Whenever we go out to check the mail or go out front to the car to do something in the driveway, she's got to go with us. She just loves to do it. No matter how bad she feels, she still wants to go out there. But she also knows the fence. She knows the boundary lines of the front yard now. And she knows she's not supposed to go outside of that area. She really loves to go out and sniff around at the mailbox, because I think that's a community center for messaging. And all the dogs come by, they all sniff, and they all leave markers, including her, around that mailbox. I don't ever see a dog go by there without stopping at that mailbox. So anyway, it's kind of funny. But she loves to go out there and look around and sniff around, and she just lays out there. But, of course, I can't let the other one go out there, so I can't just leave the shop open to where they could go out. So I usually let her out. I keep the door shut here, and she goes out front. And when she wants to come back in, she just barks. And I'll leave her out there. Sometimes I forget she's out there for an hour. And she's just laying out there in the sun. She enjoys being out front. So, which is kind of nice. That other dog, she's got a ways to go to learn that stuff. But they are really quite a treat to have around the shop, both of them. Because they both have their really funny ways. They argue, they fight, and they play. Sometimes they're a real pain around here. When somebody goes by, they're both into barking now. And I hate that in the shop. And they know they're not supposed to bark in the shop. So sometimes they'll just both run outside and bark instead. But sometimes they just won't be quiet. I have to use a squirt gun. But they are fun to have around. If you have any stories about your dogs, watch out, because you get me started on talking about them. I'll talk about them for hours. So anyway, that's what I really had thought about the dogs. Oh, one quick thing about the dogs. As I talked about the doggy doors, I replaced the one going into the house with a little wider one because she couldn't really fit through there very well, especially with her hips going bad. Poor dog couldn't even get in and out of the house hardly. Well, this one's the same size, but she stopped going in and out of this doggy door. She just would bark, and I'd open the door and let her in or out. And that's how she asked permission to go through the door here, getting into the shop lately. The other day, she had to come in here because Missy was up there barking at the front window, and she had to come in. She came in there, and she only got halfway in. Her front half is in, and her back half is outside, and she's standing there looking at me. So I had to go help her get out of there, and I have to tell you, I could not get her back in to go through that door. Her hips are really that much larger, apparently. Anyway, the poor thing, she was stuck there for about 5 minutes. It took me to get her out of there. And hopefully she won't do it again. But you will see me build a new doggy door. And I'm going to talk about doggy doors for quite a while, I suspect. Because I really believe in them, even though some people don't. Like I said, we'll get into all of that. But expect me to put another doggy door in to the shop area, and it's going to be the bigger door, just like I did at the house. So anyway, so much about the dogs and things with them. Some of the other things I want to talk about, sometimes I think about things and you never know what it's going to be. This is an OTB thinker thing, I think. But like, I was thinking about how to make a paracord. This is just that normal standard paracord you can buy, and I made mine so that it has a 3-inch stretch to it by doing what I did here. Now I can go into what this all is about. Basically, I put the cord, slid this tubing. This is elastic, the surgical tubing. And I clamped it down on one end, and then I pulled the rubber as far along here as I could. I clamped it down, and it retracted, and all that cord is inside of here, kind of wadded up, so I can get tension on this thing, but I can still get that about 2.5, 3 inches of stretch out of that little short piece. So what I'm thinking is, this actually is better, as far as I'm concerned, than a bungee cord, if I can get it, because you know what happens to bungee cords. So I thought maybe I would try this, and if this ever goes bad, you can just replace it again just by taking it apart and putting new stuff on it. But I don't think that having the cord inside all wadded up is quite the answer. So I have an idea of how to make something that you can attach to any cord in 2 minutes and turn it into a stretch cord. And you can, and I think I know how you can get it to control the amount of tension you would have and the amount of stretch elasticity you would have as to how far you can stretch it. And I think you can make it so that you can use it on almost any cord or rope that's out there. So I'm putting that together. We're going to have a little bungee cord attachment, or a little surgical tube attachment to cord, to make it, to be able to have that stretchability. So stay tuned. This is something I've been thinking about. Just as an example, instead of the cord being jammed up in here like I explained on this one, I was thinking to get the length of the cord to extend, but only under pull and push, maybe I could wrap the cord around the outside of this and clamp it on both ends. Then when you pull it, it will try to unroll, which gives you the length increase, and the stretchiness of the surgical tube would give you the pull. So maybe I could wrap it around the outside of this instead of on the inside. That was one of my thoughts, but I think I have an even better way of attaching it to give you this elasticity and give you the strength of whatever rope you're using. So stay tuned. If you have any thoughts or you're curious about what's going on with this, let me know, and I'll show you, because I'm going to, actually pretty soon, I've been thinking about this for 2 months, I am going to change this thing. And it's how I'm doing it, because I think we can make a better deal of it. So that is something that I am working on. And like I said, I think about it for a few minutes. I have it sitting here, and I'll sit here and play with it and think about it and think about what I can do with it. and then I put it aside and stop thinking about it after a while. So that's how sometimes I create things, is I have to think about it for a while, then I put it aside and I wait, then all of a sudden later on I go, oh, wait, I know how to do that. So it's been sitting there for quite a while. Anyway, that's just one of the things that I do and I think about the whole time I'm here. Also, I bought another DPS, digital panel, a digital power supply. It's a Drock, and it's a 5020. So I'm going to make another one of those power supplies that I can plug into any power pack that I have that's a 12-volt power pack and be able to get up to 60 volts out of it. And I'll show you how to do that with using a boost converter and using the DPS, which is basically a buck converter with CC and CV capabilities on it. And I think I'm going to put one together. I think it'll be pretty handy to have. And what really be nice is that I can take any of my power packs and hook that up to it. And then I can get any kind of voltage out of it that I want. Probably up to 15 amps without any problem, I suspect. So stay tuned for that real flexible power unit that you'll be able to use. And it'll be easy to use when I get done. So that's something I've just been thinking about. And yes, I got to make another power supply. So anyway, stay tuned for that. That is something I'm kind of been thinking about. I'm just waiting for the time to put it together. Now, I think I have all the parts that I need. And I think I can do it at a pretty cheap price, too. So, what else am I working on? Oh, I keep thinking about these guys constantly. As you know, I make my own Ryobi adapters, receptacles. The Ryobi battery just plugs into here. This one in particular has the switch built into it, which is really cool. And it can be very handy to have. But there's 4 different styles of these things out there. They have this one here, and this one is, what makes this one unique is it's a 3-post. And if you notice on your Ryobi batteries at the top, there are 3 posts here. And there's a reason for that 3rd post. So, but I'm thinking when you plug this on, you get the volts reading. I like that. I've learned to really say, hey, I wish I could do that more often. And I can change out the wires I need. And I have an instant power supply. And I know how much. So I'm thinking about switching it out instead of this, using the one that has the amp on it too, so that I can see what amps it's drawing while it's working. That would be a very cool unit. It wouldn't take up much more space than this little meter does here, in all reality. And I'm thinking that would be a nice diagnostic thing to have for my Ryobi batteries, because you know me, I'm always trying to think of new ideas for these batteries. So I think I'm going to make another one of these that has both a volt and amp meter. Hell, I might even consider putting on a battery meter on one of these directly. If you think about it, then I could actually register the watt hours and that sort of thing and the time with some of those monitors. So maybe I'll even try to do one of these that snap on, then you have your 2 connectors to hook up to your power load, and you can do all sorts of analysis stuff quickly and easily just by using a Ryobi battery as your power source. So anyway, I think I can do it. I have a lot of little projects I'd like to do with some of these different units. If you remember, not too long ago, I did a video using this lamp and using the bulb that is a 12, well, actually it's a 9 to 24, or 12 to 24 volt, maybe it is the range of the voltage you can put into it to use it DC. So it's perfect to be used with a Ryobi battery. And I made a nice little battery deal using these little dome 12 volt, 24 volt light bulbs and made a nice little fixture. Well, I saw the other day somebody named Benjamin Franklin is his channel name, and he made a Ryobi one just like mine. He used a different light. He used a one of those lights, what do they call them, where they just mount the real big panel lights that or bright. They mount them on a car usually so you can get some good light coming off of the outside of a vehicle. He used that for his light source. What made his really cool, it had a two-way switch on it. And when you would switch it to one way, you could plug any 12-volt power supply into the wall and then plug that into his unit. And then when you flip the switch one way and you snap the battery in place on it, the light would work running off of the electricity. But he also put a relay on it so that if the power goes off, then the light would actually come on instead. So you could switch it over to the other way and the light would actually come on if the power goes off. Which I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. I could take something like that, set it in my kitchen, plug it in. Then if the power ever goes off, I still instantly have a light in the house, which would be nice. So that helps me get to all the other flashlights that are around the house that I have set. So I'm looking at that and being able to set up a battery unit, just like the one I have now. I can add that relay and that switch to it and add that feature that I can just then plug it into the wall and it'll be sitting there, and if the power ever goes out, boom, then the light will come on. So stay tuned. That's going to be a project coming up real fast. I think I'm going to get it done. I've already bought the switches and the relays. The relay is a pretty simple relay, and they weren't very expensive. I've got a pack of 5 of them for $15. So, and I'm going to make a couple of those and have them strategically placed around my house so that if the power goes off, I'll still at least be able to walk around the house till I get a flashlight to help me go around the house. But I think that would make a cool thing for when power goes out. And if it only goes out for a couple hours, I can just wait, let that light give me the light, and then when the power comes back on, I'll know it came back on. And I can take that battery out, depending on how long it was going, recharge it, and put it back in, ready for the next time. So I think a nice little emergency light plugged into an outlet is a great idea with the Ryobi backup so that you have lights for hours if the power ever goes out. So stay tuned for that. If you want to know, I'll leave a link when I make the project. I'll leave a link to Benjamin Franklin, his video, so you can kind of see it. If you want to know before then, I'll try to remember to put a link of it in this video too, of that exact video, so you can go look at it. But he did his, and the reason I'm copying it, because he did his with doing 3D printing. And I don't have a 3D printer, but I can make one of those by making a box. And I am a box maker. So I can actually still make one that's nice, so that if your shop isn't equipped with a 3D printer, you can still make one of these lights with what I'm going to show you, as opposed to his being done using a 3D printer to make it. So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought it would be kind of cool to do the same project that he did, only make mine from things around the shop rather than using a 3D printer to do it. So stay tuned. That is something I actually really want to do. What else do we have here? We actually gone pretty far. You know what? Let's call this quits. It's already been over 20 minutes. Let's call this quits. And we still got a bunch of things I want to talk about. So tomorrow, we're going to get back in here and start talking about some of this again. If you have any questions or thoughts about things you heard today, I would love to hear them. And then might even help me to get that project a little further along with your thoughts included. So don't be afraid to leave your comments about it. If you learned something here, you like this video, hit that like button. Lets me know that I did something right. Most importantly, come back again, because we're nowhere near done. And tomorrow, you ought to see another rambling Rampage. This is Rampage number 7, so stay tuned for number 8 coming out pretty quick. Thanks, and we'll see you guys again very soon.